All right, everyone pretend you have a lollipop. Put it in your mouth. Good. Now at least you're quiet. So here's what we're looking at. The idea here is if you're a therapist, on your first day, let's say your first day of opening your office, you rented a new office space, you got brand new furniture, you got a brand new computer and files. First client walks in. How do you start? Go ahead.
So you had Mr. Soap too.
Nice, well done. You get a point for that cleverness. I like that a lot. When did you say, so, how's the weather? Do you introduce yourself very formally? Because let's face it, they're paying for professional advice. So do you kind of put the image up? Hi, I'm Dr. Schmidlau. Do you then say, so what brings you here? Do you start off informally? What's going to be your style? Part of that might depend on your training, but part of it is, what do you think the client's going to need? Do you want to introduce first name basis? Do you start trying to establish commonalities? Do you have kids? Do you like the Redskins? Which everyone should. What do you do? What kind of a relationship do you establish? And I think that's probably something that we talked about is the most important thing. Because you want to get off on the right foot, but how? What are you looking at? We talked a little bit about different broad types of psychology. Let's talk about therapy. Let's talk specifically about our 7 different types of therapy. Notice we started psychology, this whole class, talking about different ways to view psychology, 7 different paradigms, and that's kind of poetically how we're going to end. Let's jump into the psychodynamic type of therapy. And this is the stuff, one of the earliest types of therapy. Again, Freud kind of kicked it off. And whenever you see something in popular media, like, we've watched a Simpsons episode, a SpongeBob episode, and any kind of episode, Family Guy episode, you name it, whenever they have a therapeutic skit, a therapeutic kind of comedy routine, it's almost always drawing on the stereotypes of this stuff. Notice the vest. Notice the Freudian goatee. Psychodynamic talking therapy. The theory with this is that you're going to get the person to talk. You can hear Freud's overtones when he says, tell me about your mother. And then be a pause. And you say, all right, you be uncomfortable. And whatever you start talking about, he wanted basically diarrhea of the mouth. The more you start talking, eventually he's going to be able, and you're going to be able to sift through all the words you say and find an unconscious meaning. Freud treated people who were what's called hysterical. Now, we look at the idea of hysterical as someone who's running around, raving, screaming. But what Freud thought is what we now call conversion disorders, somatic form disorders, somaticization disorders. And the idea is that mental anxiety, stress, trauma manifest themselves physically. All of these things are things we've seen before. As this is kind of our last unit of our class, a lot of the vocab words are going to repeat. There shouldn't be too much stuff that's new. Freud's theory, or the whole idea of psychodynamic theory, and I'm going to stop talking about Freud because we don't use a lot of Freud stuff today. I mean, we take Neo-Freudians take the idea of the unconscious, but we're not talking about Oedipal complexes or all that nonsense. There are many techniques. There's many techniques to get at the unconscious, and we saw some of that in the SpongeBob episode. What are we looking at? Well, the first thing that everyone wants to talk about is hypnosis. Freud wasn't a very good hypnotist. Freud was more direct. He said, you are now getting sleepy. Freud was an authoritarian figure. And is that what you want for a therapist? Someone to make you face thoughts you don't want to face? To make you do the emotional work you've got to do? Or do you want someone who's going to first name it? You want someone who's going to talk to you like an equal. You want someone that's been there, who can kind of help you. Talking, transference. Transference is when whatever anxiety, negativity, envy, sexual attraction, sexual frustration, to some extent goes from the patient or the client's unconscious mind onto the therapist. The therapist becomes emotionally valuable. We know what Rorschach stuff is. We know what free association is. We saw that again in the SpongeBob episode. He said potato, you say potato. Does it work? Well, I think nowadays in modern therapy there might be better techniques in this, but I'm not saying this doesn't have any use. Undoing. Undoing means negating stuff from negative past trauma, negative past events. If negative past events, even if you can't remember them, still kind of cast a shadow on your modern life. Can we go back? Can we go into your unconscious and see what's there and maybe reframe it, remanipulate how we think of or how we unconsciously process bad stuff? That's called undoing. Dream analysis, again, we've seen this before, we've played with this before a little bit in the sleep unit. For a sticker, can anyone tell me what Freud's first book was called? Freud's landmark book. Go ahead.
Freud's interpretation of dreams.
Freud's interpretation of dreams. Do you want a sticker or do you want a copy of the book? Done and done. See what happens when you play? You get books that he'll never. Are you ever going to read that?
No.
No, not at all. Could you like put it on your desk to make sure it's like not rocking or uneven?
Yeah.
Okay, fair enough. So what we're looking at here, dream analysis, manifest content. SpongeBob was dreaming of Krabby Patties. When you wake up in the morning, you come down the stairs, hair all look like you come with a pillow, you're eating sugary cereal nonsense, shoving it in your mouth, your mom's like, you're all grumpy. And then you finally say something, your mom's like, and you say, I had the weirdest dream. And you're talking about Krabby Patties or pink elephants or podiums or whatever else. The question we have are, what do those things you dream about actually mean? That's the latent content. So in SpongeBob's case, what did a Krabby Patty mean? In your case, if you dream about a big scary snake, well, if snakes are phallic symbols, what does that mean you're afraid of? In Freudian world, if a little boy or little girl was afraid of a giant stallion, a big strong horse, Freud said that symbolizes daddy's authority, daddy's power. So horses represented father figures. Is that true? You can see where this is not modern science. In the latent content under dream analysis, you're also going to get, of course, archetypes which are connected to Carl Jung. Do we all have same patterns of dreams? And if so, does dream analysis or therapy that worked on one person who had a pattern of dreams, could that work on another person that has a pattern of dreams? Now look, we've discussed that Freud was not a researcher. I think we have some serious reporting errors. Either child abuse was rampant in 19th century Vienna, Austria, or Freud, I'm going to accuse him of maybe having his theory and then finding data to support his theory. Freud was not a scientist. He was a medical doctor, but he so championed his theory that, you know what, maybe he messed with the data to match his theory. Look, classical psychoanalysis, that's what I've been describing, really expensive. 3 to 5 sessions a week for a year or more. If a psychologist charges $300 an hour, you do the math, how much it's going to cost per week, per month, per year. I don't think anyone has that kind of cash. And I know that insurance companies have a cap on it. Insurance companies do not like classical Freudian analysis. There are what are called neo-Freudians. You know that. Neo-Freudians are people who take the unconscious, the idea of the unconscious. The unconscious does have power. But instead of looking back to what happened when you were 2-year-old and potty trained and how that affected your life and superego nonsense, they might look at unconscious stuff on present stuff. Look, families are emotional. You've lived with your family for years, and some of your thoughts about your mom, your dad, your pet parakeet are unconscious. When you see your mom, I'm not going to ask you what you think. What do you feel? Do you feel an annoyance? When you see your father, do you like, yay, daddy's home? And you like go give him a big hug, bring him his slippers, newspaper. How you doing, Dad? Can I help you out? Or you look at your father as what? Consciously, I don't know, just my dad. Haven't given much thought. Dad's dad, mom's mom. Unconsciously, do mom and dad represent all the things you're never going to be? That's some scary stuff. They have high expectations. Have you met them? And whenever you don't meet them, do they always say, oh, honey, it's okay. I know you tried. But inside, do you know they're crying? Because you let them down again? That's some scary stuff. I'm not saying that's how it is. But what I am saying is that we have unconscious things that affect us now. Neo-Freudians are going to use Freud's idea of unconscious and apply it to your conscious world, to your modern world. The next paradigm we're going to look is called cognitive behavioral therapy. Cognitive behavioral therapy, if we look at cognitive, we're talking thoughts. And most of us Well, I don't know if we quote think. I think thinking happens to us. Thinking's, I don't know, we just go with the flow. More of the stream of conscious thought pops in our mind, we forget about it. And I don't think most of us actively think. We can actively think. We can choose our thoughts, but for most of us, we don't. And I like this theory a lot because it really has a lot of potential. Instead of calling it therapy, what if we call it coaching? What if we call it training? Because all of us could have better control of our minds. I think the first thing we got to talk about is called rational emotive therapy. I'm not going to hold you responsible for knowing Albert Ellis's name. If you're gonna major in psychology and love this stuff, sure, write down Ellis's name. But when we look at the word rational, most of us are not rational. Let's face it, we use heuristics, we use biases, a top-down process. We got a conclusion, and only then will we find data to support it. And the idea with this is anxiety, guilt, and depression. These negative feelings come from bad thoughts. If you have a fear of something, it's because you're not looking at something logically. Every single one of us might have a mild phobia, and by definition, a phobia is irrational. If you're afraid of clowns, or ketchup packets, or tearing eyeballs, or mean teachers who do this, oh, but you're crying, it's good for it. If you have an irrational fear, by definition, you're not thinking of it. So if you can think about it, look, spiders can't hurt you. This really isn't, you flinched. All right, should I do it again? All right, fair enough. So the idea is, if you're afraid of clowns, can clowns really hurt you? Who said yeah, I know. Maybe you watch Stephen King movies. So the idea is, if you rationally think of stuff, if you were kind of control your thoughts versus letting your thoughts control you, then perhaps you'll be a little bit healthier. Similar to that is Aaron Beck's cognitive therapy. Negative cognitive patterns are based on erroneous logic. We are illogical. I'm not saying the goal of this therapy is to make us think logically all of the time. The goal of this therapy is to get us to be able to look at stuff critically. Can you take another person's point of view? When you're mad, can you say why? Why are you mad? Or you just get mad and I don't care and you lash out? Think of these patterns. I'll never pass. That person's out of my league. I'll never get in. I'll never get the acceptance letter. So why try? And the idea is, if you can think differently. I know it sounds kind of like a motivational poster, and I think there actually is one. It's with Steve Jobs, and it said, think differently. Can that work for any of us? Maybe I'm not explaining it right. I think it's time for a video. Let's look at what happens and when Medea goes to Dr. Phil for cognitive therapy. And so the idea is, he keeps asking her to think and reflect on her thoughts. He said to her, why are you mad? And she gets a little bit of a head shake. All right, I've been working on my attitude. So why are you mad? Why are you mad? Why do you ask me questions? You can see they don't have a relationship. She is angry, and he's trying to get her to cognitively look at why is she angry? Why does she have these thoughts? Why does she have these feelings? She's unwilling, so the relationship doesn't get off to a good start. All right, so when we look at the clip of Medea talking to Dr. Phil, you can see him asking her questions. He's basically saying, why? Why do you think this way? He's trying to get her to look inside of herself, and that's a skill. I'm not saying it's straight kind of Wundt introspection. And I think it's tough for little children. Maybe people need to slip into the Piaget's formative stage, maybe past adolescence. I think all of you, and perhaps even me, as shallow as I am, can say, why am I mad? If you've been nervous for no reason, if you've been angry for no reason, there is a reason. You just don't know that the thought caused the emotion. Change the thought, you change the emotion. We kind of call that restructuring. You call a client's attention to unrealistic thoughts, that you deserve never to be hurt. That was maybe Medea's problem. How dare someone actually hurt me? Well, you know what? People are going to hurt you. You can't change other people, but you can change how you think about it. We call that restructuring. So check it out. We want to talk about mindfulness meditation. This stuff's cool because I like it, of course, because my research background is the melding of mind, body. And meditation, hypnosis, and those kind of things really fall into that genre, that paradigm. Mindfulness meditation has its roots in Eastern, maybe Buddhist tradition. or maybe a splash, a touch of yoga or Hinduism. And the idea is, can you not do nothing? Can you be still? Most of us, our thoughts are running. We don't know where our thoughts come from. We don't know where they go. Can we slow down and actually take a look at our thoughts? Can we take a look at ourselves? And it's the idea of perhaps slowing down thoughts, looking at yourself, and not letting thoughts happen to us. Not being a puppet to something that creates our thoughts, and more, again, just being at peace with our mind. It's very effective. Why do I say that? Because I want to say that it has been shown to be statistically significant. It's hard to measure whether or not someone's meditating well. You can't look at someone like, well, they're really, really still. But if you incorporate a treatment after your therapy, the therapist says to a client, I want you to try to meditate. Here are the instructions. Here are how you do it. Practice it, practice it, practice it. After some time, you will see a significant effect that is perhaps better than a treatment without mindfulness meditation. How long does it take? I don't know, 10 minutes a day, 20 minutes a day. If you do this repeatedly, does it help make bad things go away? Yeah, but then if you keep doing it, could it transition to making you perhaps a healthier, happier, better adjusted person? Hold on a second. Most of us, look at your parents. Look at your mom. Is your mom so busy? Does she ever get 5 or 10 minutes to herself? If she does, do you quickly ruin it? Mom, can I have? Mom, can I have? You do, don't you? That's your job as a child, to ruin her day. And the reality is, you guys, many of you all have practice. You got after-school activities. You got work. You got to go to the freaking ice cream store in the middle of winter and make, I don't even know what you do. But the reality is, when do you ever get time? And when you do get free time, I'm not saying there shouldn't be downtime of playing video games or watching a mindless sitcom. That's important. But if you could eke out time to actually think of nothing, to actually think of your thoughts, where you are right now. It's too easy to think of regrets and be mad. God, I wish I would have done that earlier so I didn't have this deadline. It's too easy to think, I'll be happy in the future when I graduate, when the exam's over. But can you think of right now? That's the concept of mindfulness. Question?
Can the thought of being cured actually cure you?
I think so. That might be one therapeutic technique where a therapist could say to someone, imagine what your life will be like when you aren't gripped by anxiety.
So it's like a mental placebo effect?
Could be. And some people will say, that's just what therapy is, a mental placebo effect. Placebo effects work. Go ahead.
But can one idea of like faking it into something that feels harmful as well?
It could be. And that's kind of the art and science of therapy. When do you ask certain clients to imagine and fake it? And when do you not ask certain clients to imagine and fake it? And it's not like you have, if you have one treatment fits all, that might work if you work in a very narrow area. There's a proven technique for this disorder. But if you're a generalist and you get some people come in with this depression, but you get an older person come in with depression, you get a person who's going through this bankruptcy and depression, a person who's dealing with addiction and depression, one treatment size doesn't fit all. And that's the problem with therapy. It's a broad thing. This is in many cases much more dynamic than just physical medicine. Let's do this. If we look at this chart, maybe this gives us the fact we are all irrational. I have to get this done immediately. When you guys look at your calendar, your agenda book, your to-do list, does it irritate you? You get really, really mad because, God, and you get really, really anxious because you have no control over deadlines. Your teacher, your boss, your coach sets deadlines. I must be perfect. This is a wild concept. I know we're not supposed to be that, but I think the competitive nature of getting into college and high school has really done a mind job on many of you all. I'm going to tell you right now that what college you end up going to and graduating from does not matter. I mean, it's great if you get into an Ivy League school. You can brag upon that all day long. You can be one of the rare people that wears a Harvard sweatshirt and earned it, instead of just buying it at some gift shop. The reality is, though, talk to your parents. Ask them if they're working in the major in which they studied. Ask them when's the last time the name on their diploma actually mattered. I'm suggesting that, you know what? No one said you had to get straight A's. You'll get into college. You'll graduate. You'll find a job. You'll be a tax-paying slave for the next 40 years, just like the rest of us. Trust me, that'll happen. I'm suggesting it's not really important to get a few A's. I just say get a whole bunch of C's and don't stop. Don't stop to get your master's. Don't stop to get your doctorate. No one said you had to get straight A's. Just don't stop getting C's. You're like, what? What do you mean? No one's going to look at your GPA. They only look whether or not you finish. Everyone's watching me. I think that's a normal thing. We're all curious. We're all concerned with what our reputation is. Remember the spotlight effect clip I showed? Steve Martin walks in a restaurant, thinks everyone's watching him. You know what? We're all afraid. Oh my God, can I rewear that outfit? I only wore it 3 days ago. Will people notice? No. They won't notice because they're too wrapped up in whether people are noticing them. These are irrational stuff. To some extent, we're all irrational. We all have these. Can we relearn to think differently? Skip a line. Oh, don't look at the clock, John. Don't look at the clock. You're never getting out of here, son. I don't know. That's probably blasphemous to say, but how many of you all, like, if and whenever you do die and you get sentenced to wherever, and you're like, this is where you end up? Would that be the worst? If you, what I'm basically saying is, how do you know this won't be your hell? Wow, interesting. All right, so we're talking about positive psychology. We touched upon this in a few earlier units. The idea is it's not good enough to just be here's ill and not ill. It's not good enough to be just not ill. What if we can get better? What if we can wake up every day and actually be happy? To realize, you know what, today I could go out and help someone. Today I can realize how happy I am. And I don't want to say it's all this kumbaya, sit in a circle, burn some incense, and be like, yay for life. I'm not saying we should all be SpongeBob happy all day. The idea here is read before you copy every word. Try and focus on what makes them happy and what good things are in their life now on a moment-to-moment basis. They don't have to wait so long between happy times. Think about this. How many of you all cannot wait to get out of your parents' house and go to this mythical place called college and be free? Yeah, see a lot of you like, stupid mom, I can't wait. Okay, that's fine. How many of y'all can't wait to be done with these stupid outlines? How many of y'all can't wait to be done with school? Notice that in the back of your mind, you have a construct set up. You will be happy when a condition happens, which means you're not really that happy right now. So if you're sitting in traffic, and you're like traffic, and you're all mad, and your latte spills, and you're furious, you forget to realize that you're not the cause of traffic. I don't care how late you are going to be happier than the person that's causing the whole traffic jam. If you have to pull over for police officer or ambulance, I hate cops, you better be real thankful you're not on the business end of that speeding police officer or ambulance. What we're looking for here is the concept of appreciation and thankfulness. This does have some overlap into religion. And the reality is this, again, is a cognitive discipline. This does have some footprints in the cognitive paradigm. Do we think often? I'm not going to say constantly. Do we think often about what could be bad and how thankful, how many good things we have? I urge you all to watch a video or read a book called Alive. And if you haven't heard the story, I brought it up before because I'm fascinated with it. Every time I think I'm having a bad day, like my latte spills, all right, or I don't know, the stock market goes down a little bit, I'm like, God, the world's against me. Check out this story. About 40 years ago, and I have general gist because it's been a while since I've read the book, but it's still present in my mind. About 40 years ago, a group of people not too older than you, generally young men, flying across South America, they crash. For 3 months, and it's just weird because it's like flight 370 right now, it's missing. 40 years ago, a plane was lost. For 3 months, they're sitting on top of the Andes. Could not be colder. They got snow. Half of their people are dead. They're starving to death. So after 9 days, they start eating their friends' bodies. They live for, and then, there's like avalanches, someone dies, someone this. And if you think of the worst, so just for kicks and giggles, I dare you to read like a true life account of someone who's been a prisoner of war for years and years and years. And if you take that as the absolute baseline of how bad life can get, and then you do a discipline every day of thinking all the good things you have. I know life sucks right now because you're bored in my class, and I'm blah, blah, blahing at you. How much worse could it get? The idea with positive psychology is to be happy now versus being happy under a condition, when a goal is achieved. I'll be happy when I can finally get the new job. I'll be happy when I get the raise. That's ridiculous, because when you get the raise, what are you going to do? Spend the raise. You're going to spend the raise and just be in as much debt. Funny is, God, I can't wait to get to college. Do you realize the courses will be harder? You'll have more work. I'm not saying that the reality is to accept what you've got. This type of thinking, one more time, is a skill. Most of us don't practice it. Many people who believe in the birth of Santa Claus around Christmas time, they cannot wait till they get their presents. The day or two before Christmas, they got their list. It's on the refrigerator. Maybe they mailed it to Santa Claus, and they're all happy. And wanting and having, wanting's better than getting. And once they get the stuff, they got to wait for their birthday to be happy or get it, because they're already bored of their stuff. Questions on this? All right, why don't y'all pack it up?